Welcome to the Private Lending Insider Podcast, where we offer education, expert guidance, and access to reliable private capital, empowering real estate investors to successfully develop affordable and workforce housing. As a result of the education and expert guidance shared on the Private Lending Insider Podcast, real estate investors, developers, and entrepreneurs gain fair access to reliable private capital to fund their profitable investment properties with greater ease, enabling them to earn the income they desire and live the lifestyle they really want. For continuing education and access to private capital, visit chamblissmortgagecapital.com after the podcast. Here's your show host, founder, and CEO of Chambliss Mortgage Capital, Mr. Randy Chambliss, the private money lender expert.
Happy Thursday to you. I'm Randy Chambliss, the private money lender. Listen, I am super excited, man. Happy Thursday again. I have a gentleman, I have a brother today that's going to give you a lot of value, going to drop some jewels on you, right? So happy Thursday again. Welcome to the Private Money Lending Podcast. This is episode 9. So listen, from humble beginnings to real estate greatness, right? This gentleman is an experienced real estate investor, a real estate broker with a diverse portfolio that includes single-family homes, multifamily, and commercial properties. Now, listen to this. Additionally, he's an author, right? A 3-time author. 3 books the brother wrote. Book number one, I'm out. I am out. Escaping the rat race, one income stream at a time. Book number 2 is From Listed to Sell, 50 to Sold, 55 expert strategies to sell your home in any market. And book number 3 things, right? Things that they don't teach in school, right? I don't want to murder that. Things they don't teach in school, right? So listen, welcome to the Private Money Lender Show, Mr. Antonio Cousin. What up, bro? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me, bro. I look forward to, hopefully impacting somebody. If I impact one person today, I did my job. You know what I mean? So I'm thankful. I don't take this lightly. So I'm looking forward to the talk. I'm here to talk about whatever you want to talk about. But when it comes to personal finance and real estate, that's what I love. So that's what I hope we can touch on today.
Yes, sir. So listen, I'm humbled and honored you was able to come in, man. And that's the reason why I wanted you to come in. I see your activity. We talked offline. I was like, man, you are one of the most consistent brothers that I know. I've been knowing you for a while. Every time we talk on the phone, we jamming, coming up with ideas. And now, we're able to connect and be able to make an impact to a lot of people that's listening. So listen, before we really jump into the financials and real estate game, I shared a little bit about who you are and the highlights of where you at right now. But we know that everybody has a story. Everybody had to start somewhere and has some learning lessons along the way. So if you don't mind, share a little bit about why you started and some learning lessons that you learned along your journey.
Okay. So born and raised in New Orleans. After high school, graduated from McDonough 35. Class of 2002, you dig? After high school, went to LSU. After LSU, took a job as a bank examiner and moved to Dallas. I actually did that for 14 and a half years while also getting my real estate license in Dallas and moving back home in 2016, working from home with that same job and basically doing it all simultaneously. I actually just quit my job 2 days ago, 3 years ago, 2 days ago. So I've been doing real estate full time finally. For 3 years now, and it's been up. I do not regret not one bit. But I tell you, man, the reason you mentioned consistent, I'm consistent, which I am. But I feel like the reason I do that is because of some things that happened as a kid. I grew up with a single mother, 3 kids, right? So we didn't have a lot. My mom a police officer still to this day, a sergeant now, NOPD. Shout out to moms. But we didn't have a lot, you know what I mean? So I experienced some things financially that made me never want to experience that again. I never want to go through that again. And my mom, she did everything she could for us, right? I'm so grateful, man, so thankful. So there's not a shot at her at all. So I know she's going to see this. I love you, moms. Good looking out. You did everything you could, you know what I mean? But it's just certain things sometimes, we might not have had enough to pay, the light bill or maybe cut off temporarily, whatever. But some of them things, it just stuck with me, right? So that just made me never want to be without financially, if that makes sense. So that's why I hustle and go as hard as I do. And I have 2 kids now. And man, when I tell you, like my kids set, like they're 6 and 3. I got 2 boys, 6 and 3. They are set. Like they won't hurt for anything, man. Like I'm doing it now. You know how we used to, growing up, we would talk about, oh, that boy, trust fund baby. Or we would look down on that. I am creating those. Like I am creating trust fund babies, bro. Like when I tell you, my kids are gonna know who I am, or me and my wife, because of what we setting up right now. Like they're gonna be straight. Like my sons right now, bro. Like, and I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just being honest. Like their net worth is more than what a lot of them, like the majority of Americans' net worth is right now at this point at 6 and 3.
Awesome, man. I love it. Now, to able to accomplish that, one, you made that decision, like you mentioned early on. Hey, I decide that this is the direction I'm going to take, and I'm going to go for it, give it everything I have. Yeah. That takes a different mindset, right? Because a lot of people in life, I learned, they start certain things. They may not have the success that they wanted to create. And then now they kind of hesitate, to procrastinate, or even quit. And they start to tiptoe through life, hoping to make it safely to death. But you didn't do that. So talk to me like about the mindset, like what type of books you've been reading, mentors you have that help you to build that thinking.
So I'll tell you, as far as mentors, I don't have like a mentor that I could just call. Because I have a coach, a real estate coach, like from the real estate sales perspective, but I don't have like a mentor where I could just call if I have questions. But I do a lot of reading and audiobooks and podcasts, and I consider those people mentors afar. I may not be able to call them and ask a question, but I do pick up on the knowledge they drop in the podcast or in the books. I read this book, and I wish I could remember the name of it. I read it this year. In the book, the author said, your mind is an appreciating asset. And I was like, ooh, that's good. I'm going to have to remember that. I'm going to figure out what book that was and let you know, because that's important. But he said, your mind is an appreciating asset. And I never really thought about it like that. And I just sat back and reflected on that statement. And that's so true, because there's so much information out there. It's just a matter of, what books are you reading? What conferences are you attending? Like I'm a knowledge junkie, man. Like I love self-improvement. Like I was showing you before we recorded the call, like I'm building a whole library over here. That's books, that I highlight in and I'm gonna pass to my sons. Like, so I'm always reading personal finance and real estate related books. With the brokerage, we have a book club. We meet in the morning on Zoom, Monday through Friday at 5:15 in the morning. And I'll start it off with like a motivational quote. Then we share goals, like what's our goals for the day. And then we share our takeaways from the book, whatever book we're reading at that point in time. And we're usually on and off within 15 to 20 minutes. And I never get the whole brokerage, by the way. It's usually just 4 or 5 people. This morning there were 5 of us. So that it's just all about sharing, like exposing each other to new things and just getting the knowledge, man. There's so much information out there. So there's no excuses at this point in time.
Absolutely. And I love that. So talk a little bit, we're going to come back to the mindset and vision and belief. Like that's my thing. We connect real good because I love personal development. I love getting better. So talk to me about the brokerage. Like how many team members that you have right now?
So it's 20 of us, man. Actually, last week it was 24, but going into 2025, I wanted a fresh start. I wanted people that want to be here and actually are serious. So had to cut ties with a few, and it's 20 of us. We operate in both New Orleans and Baton Rouge. I actually don't live in either. I live in the middle of both. So we operate New Orleans and Baton Rouge and service, all of the surrounding areas. Like I said, it's 20 people. We started the brokerage in July of 2020. So we're going on 3.5 years? No, 4.5 years now. Mm-hmm. It's, we look at, it's like a family, man, to be honest with you. We go on trips together. Like just past July, we went to the Bahamas. Next July, we're going to Punta Cana. Like we act as a family, bro. And I love it over here. Like everybody help each other. It's no scarcity mindset. It's abundance. Like we share what we know, because, there's so many deals out there. You can't do them all, period. So why hold back the information?
That's right.
I'm an open book when it comes to knowledge and stuff. Like I love sharing, bro.
That's right.
Do it all.
Each one, teach one, pass it on. I was on, I think maybe the second podcast, interviewed a gentleman. He'd been in the financial literacy space for 30 plus years, right? As a CEO. and he's created a lot of multi-million-dollar earners as well through the company. And he made a statement. He said, Randy, he said, one thing I learned in life is that wealth building is a team sport. I said, I like that. Wealth building is a team sport. So going back to what you're currently doing right now, you started a brokerage. You obviously was working underneath a brokerage at one point, but you made the decision and said, this is what I'm going to do. But you had a vision that I'm actually going to build big, and not just with anybody. Because like I said, you guys are family, and that means that you guys think alike. You have the same vision, one goal, but at the same time, now here it is, a couple of 3 years later, you have 20 real committed and passionate real estate agents and realtors on your team.
Yeah.
So
4 of us, four and a half. I misspoke earlier. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So let's talk about that belief part. Like, how do Mr. Cousin build his beliefs? Let's say you got a goal set. It's territory. You've never been there before, but you got this thought. Like, how do you create the belief to be able to move forward and accomplish that?
So I'm big on affirmations, man. I write down my affirmations. I read them every morning. I have it printed right here on the wall. It's 15 different affirmations. But in addition to that, like, I'm big on goals as well. I like to write it down, because if you think about it, like, everything in existence right now first had to come from the thought, right? So like this computer we on right now, somebody thought about that first. So they had to manifest it, right? Put it on paper, design it, whatever. But it start here first in your mind. So like I'm big on, if I put my mind to something, I can accomplish it no matter what it is. I don't care what it is. Like, if I wanted to meet the president, I can meet the president if I really wanted to. There's ways around figuring out to do that. It might not be immediate, but I can figure it out if I needed to. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying that to say that I'm a strong believer in literally anything you want to do in life, you can do it no matter what. Forget the excuses. I'm not a big excuse kind of guy. Like, if I say I'm gonna do it, like, your word is everything. So if I say I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And if I give you my word, I'm the type of person, like, I like to share my goals, so that way you can hold me accountable.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I love accountability. I thrive off that. So if I tell you I'm gonna do something, I want you to hold me accountable to it. Because if I don't do it, then I'm not a man of my word. You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely,
belief is everything.
That's right. So we always use, like, in our family, in our team, we always use the acronym called BEAR, BEAR. The B for that belief, the E is for that emotion, and then the A is the action, and obviously the R is for results, right? And so oftentimes you see people, they working, they're not getting the results that they prefer, and they look at, hey, let me change my actions, right? Yeah. And oftentimes that is not the solution. That's not the causing factor of that effect. The action that you change might only last a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month or two, but eventually you're going to default to that spirit man, that person, that old man. You're going to go back to that subconscious program. So we know we can't go back to the emotions, because the emotions only responding to what you're thinking. So no matter what thought you have, a fun, excited, abundant prosperity thought, then you're going to feel that way. But if you have the other side of thoughts, depressed, not, complaining, you're going to have those feelings, right? But we know we got to go to that belief, and to build that belief, like you mentioned, I do the same thing as affirmation. So everybody that's watching this video, you have to understand, if you do not have a goal set that you chose, you don't have the affirmations behind it, you can't program your mind for success. And so Mr. Antonio just told you his story from where he at today, where he come from. And it's not by accident that he's having the success with him and his family and this whole team today. It's not by accident. It's by purpose, right?
Yeah. So visualization too, man. I in the mornings, bro, like, when it's quiet, I have no distractions. I'm just thinking about the future. Like sitting in that moment, you know what I mean? As if it already happened. It works. I
say that again, sir. Say that again.
Visualization. So, like, sometimes, well, not oftentimes, in the morning after we done with our calls, I'll do my reading right after that. But if I have time before the workout, because I work out right after that too, I'll just sit there and visualize and just think of myself in the moment. Like with the brokerage, like, I visualized this. Like, I knew what it was gonna be. It's just sitting in it, like, acting as if it's already there. If that makes sense.
No, it does. Makes perfect sense. You have to see yourself already at the end, right? Thinking from the place that you want to be. And not only that, you visualizing your future self, but at the same time, you feeling the feeling, how it would feel, the gratitude, the thankfulness, the gratefulness, the celebration. You're actually feeling that feeling. And now what I've learned in life, when you put yourself in that state, you're on a frequency, and that parallel reality exists. I was talking to my 13-year-old son. We went and ate lunch together Sunday, right? We ate breakfast together. So we went out, ate breakfast together, and I was talking to him like, listen, there's multiple parallel realities happening at one time. There's different frequencies that's happening at one time. One, does the frequency, his name is Ryan. Ryan does a Ryan frequency who's abundant, who's healthy, who have great happiness, joy, success, and prosperity. You have that version. Then you have the other version of that Ryan that's on the corner with a sign written on there saying, hey, I'm hungry, I need some food. That version exists. That version of that person that's in debt, going through some challenges with the spouse, etc. That version exists. But you have to make that decision and choose to say, okay, I don't want that life like you chose early on. I didn't want that life. This is what I want to accomplish. This is the life that I want to live. And now if you could think that thought, if God gave you that vision, that means that is a reality. That can happen for you because you couldn't have thought it if it wasn't available.
Yep. And I would say like the cheat code for that, if you want, spice it up, is get around people that's trying to go places with you. Like surround yourself with those type of people. It'll make it way easier, bro. Way easier. Right. Like we were talking about this before we started recording, how both of us, like we on the same frequency, and how both of us have a small circle is because like you got to keep that kind of stuff away. Like that'll slow you down. So my circle's super small, man. Like that's super small.
Absolutely.
I'm going somewhere. Not saying that others aren't, but I just have a destination in mind, and I can't afford to let somebody pull me back. So I stay away from all the negativity and the gossip. I don't even really watch TV like that, to be honest with you. I'm serious. I watch.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly where I am, because you got to protect your ear gates. You got to protect your eye gates. Like all these five senses that we have that God gave us, those five senses allow information to come in. Yeah. And so if you in a environment of lack, limitation, depression, drugs, alcohol, whatever, and you in that environment, then the thoughts of those people that's in the environment is floating around, penetrating all time and space, and you pick up that thought. You're trying to figure out where that thought comes from. You stay there long enough, that becomes a habit, it becomes a behavior, and then that behavior is that you're taking certain actions, and that give you the results. However, like you said, you're in the right room, in the right group of people. Now they have abundance, wealth, happiness, joy, doing the right things with nobody even looking. And they have vision, they have goals, and they also have accomplishments already. Then they're thinking certain thoughts, and you get to pick up those wealth thoughts. And then you feel a certain way, take a certain action, and you can guarantee you will get those same results if you're putting in the work the right way.
Yeah, that's why I like going to conferences and like masterminds, things like that, especially when you got to pay to get in, because it'll narrow it down to the people that's serious. Plus, it gets you around people that's on the same wavelength as you, and people who trying to do the same thing as you, and you kind of network with those people, and hopefully you could push each other. But I love going to conferences and things like that, or paying for masterminds when it's related to something that I'm trying to get into or trying to master.
Man, I love it. Yeah, bro. Now look, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I can take the whole show up talking about mindset and beliefs and building a vision, but I know we got to give some value in the financial literacy piece. So tell us a little bit about the 3 books that you wrote and why they're so important in regards to financial literacy.
All right. So it all started with, I used to do these newsletters where I would give value, right? So, I told you already, I'm a self-improvement junkie. I like to read, I like to learn. So I started with, actually before that, I started my frat brothers. I'm an alpha from LSU, right? So I used to meet with them. I started this group on GroupMe called Knowledge Transfer. And so it was just me sharing information with them. And it was maybe 23 of them, something like that. And then it got to a point where I felt I could teach better or scale more by impacting more people if I did it like a newsletter. So then I stopped doing it with just them, and I turned it into a newsletter where I was sharing information every 6 to 7 days. I had about 400 people on the newsletter, something like that. So I like to teach. Then I figured, why not put it all together in the book, right? Start putting this stuff in the book, because that'll live longer than me. Like it'll last way after I'm gone, you know? So the first book is called I'm Out Escaping the Rat Race, One Income Stream at a Time. It's basically just my story and how I'm a big believer in having multiple income streams. Huge believer in that. Like, you have to have that. And so this talked about basically with me and my job as a bank examiner, and how I left that and was able to do real estate full time, because I have multiple income streams coming in outside of just that bank examiner job, for example. So this one is a quick 41-page book, not long at all, but it's very good. Like this, I've sold more copies than anything, probably like close to 600 copies of this. And it's 41 pages, but it's good, actionable items in it. The second one is called From Listed to Sold. So honestly, this one's 183 pages, something like that. Yeah, 183 pages. So initially, the goal with this book was to use it as a lead capture mechanism for sale by owners, right? And basically give it away to them for free, telling them how to sell their house without using an agent. That was the goal. But I started noticing that realtors started buying it. So I was like, hold up, I need to pivot. And now I started marketing it to realtors, like showing you how to sell a home, 55 strategies, basically. And both of these, I did those last year in 2023. The most recent one I just put out this year, a couple months ago, actually, is Things They Don't Teach You in School. So this one is my most proudest work. And the reason is, like, I just told you how I love personal finance. And I put all this together in 101 pages. And my goal with this one was to market it to like 15 to maybe 25-year-olds. Mm-hmm. Just people who starting out, because, you know, compound interest and time, when you're that young and you invest young, you have time on your side for growth purposes. So if I can get this information to them that early, you know, 15 to 25, that early in their lives, they'll be well off. But I also realized there's a lot of us that's in their adult ages that don't even know this information. In the book, I talk about like saving and investing, credit, multiple income streams, retirement, estate planning, entrepreneurship, financial literacy. It's a lot of different financial topics. So the goal in the book is just to expose you. It's not to make you a master of anything. It's more so to educate you, tell you what it is, and hopefully it'll get you going enough to where you want to explore more, to dive deeper into these topics. But I think this is probably my best work, to be honest with you. I love this book. And what I've been doing, so I teach with the 100 Black Men of Metropolitan Baton Rouge. Mm-hmm. I teach, it's this Dollars and Cents program. It's me and a couple other people. We teach, it's an 8-week program on Sundays for 2 hours. And it's investing, saving, investing, budgeting, credit, the wealth gap, real estate, stocks. So we teach all that stuff over 8 weeks for 2 hours every Sunday. And then in the summer, we do Young Investors Academy, where it's just 2 weeks of stocks and 2 weeks of real estate, and we go in a deeper level. So Dollars and Cents will be the first program, then Young Investors will be a little deeper. So I teach that, and now we're going to start incorporating my book into the curriculum. So it's cool. I mean, I'm excited about that.
You should be, because we need that information, because just like you mentioned in the book, the title is not taught in school. And oftentimes it's not taught in the household because mom and dad didn't get the information, and it just not able to pass it on to the young kids, or to the young adults, I should say. Yeah. And from a perspective of, you know, a couple of steps, like a 19-year-old or 18-year-old, they just graduating high school, right? Mm-hmm. They excited. They going to driving school to get their driver's license. They're enrolling in college right now, trying to figure things out. Mom and dad is not there for whatever reason. They may be there, but they just don't have that financial literacy education. What will you tell, the 3 things you would tell that 19-year-old female or male, of what should they do? What your recommendations would be for them to win with money?
So read my book, first of all. Nah, that is one, but it ain't one. But look, so this is what I would say, man. You know, like those early years, you don't really know much, right? So like I think back to college and how they used to have those tables set up where they try to get you to sign up for a credit card and get a free t-shirt. Bro, they prey on people like that. So number one would be to stay away from that. Do not sign up, because if you don't understand credit, you're not going to use it wisely. So you'll use it not expecting to pay it back, or, you know, mess up with the pay dates, and that just mess up your credit score from the beginning. It just sets you up for failure at the very beginning. So that would be one, not signing up for credit cards unless they fully understand how it works. 2 would be set up a budget. a lot of young folks don't budget. They don't even know what that is. So they get in over their head over heels, and they have more expenses than they have money coming in. So you definitely want to sit down with somebody to help them kind of guide them through just how to set up a budget, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to the real estate piece, if I could do it all over again, man, this would be my third one. Going to college, I wouldn't have lived on campus, or maybe I live on campus the first year to get exposed to it, enjoy it. But then right after that, got my mom or somebody to co-sign for me to get a house and house hacked. Like that's the ultimate like strategy right there. If you're young and you're already living with people in the dorm or living with people in the house anyway, why not let it be your house and rent out rooms to them or rent out the other side to them? So that's something I would do for sure, and that's what my kids are gonna do if they decide to go to college. That's how I'm gonna set them up. We'll get them a duplex or something like that, and let them make some money while the tenant pay off the mortgage.
So let's dive into that a little bit about the house hack, right? Boom, they 19, 20, right? They have some income coming in, they have their job, they're in school, they stay away from the credit cards, but their credit score is high enough to get them a loan. Like, what would you recommend for a house hack? Should it be a double right out the gate, 3-plex, 4-plex, or whatever they can put their hands on? And how would that look?
So it's really just going to depend, because if it's in an area like, let's say, New York, things are a little bit more expensive out there, so it may not make financial sense to do it there. But if it's down here where we live, things are way more affordable. So it would depend on the situation. I can't say a double or a single family, but whatever they're comfortable with. If they're comfortable renting out rooms, having a 3-bedroom, renting out 2 other rooms, then I would do that. And then it all depends on the area too. I would try to get in the area that I know is going to go up in value quicker than other areas, if that makes sense. So it really just depends. I can't really just give general advice for everybody. But look, I just thought about something. So you familiar with Wall Street Trapper, right?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
All right. So he said, and I'm paraphrasing this, but he said, hold on, how it go? He said, we can all agree that the lion is at the top of the food chain, right? So why would the lion tell the gazelle or the zebra, like, why would he tell them how to get away? Because if he told them how to get away, then they would go back and tell their friends, and then he wouldn't have anything to eat, right? So then he had to start eating his own. So if you look at it that way, the wealthy, they're the financial predators, and we're the financial prey. So it's up to us to educate ourselves, because they're not going to do it. They eat off of us. So it's up to us to teach each other the knowledge, so that way we can't be taken advantage of. And that's my goal. That's what I'm doing with these books. I'm trying to scale in a larger way than those emails that I used to do. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I like to teach the information, so that way I can help. Like I told you earlier, bro, as long as I help one person, I did my job. That's how I truly feel.
That's right. That's right. You're a servant, right? You're a true servant. And, we all have financial obligations, right? We have 2 when you look at the basis. 1, we have financial obligation to take care of our current lifestyle right now, just to make sure that we have enough income coming in to pay all the bills that we need every month, and still have some money, what we call cash flow, left over to be able to do certain things, whether that is to invest that money, to put it in a business, some marketing, etc. But then we also have future financial obligations, meaning when we get older, whether you're forced to retirement because of whatever issues that might be going on, or you make a decision and decide to retire, you still have to live, eat, have clothing and raiment at that time as well. So what I've learned is there's 5 challenges, right, that's stopping most people to meeting those 2 financial objectives, or there's 2 financial obligations. Number 1 is inflation, right? Number 2 is going to be taxes. 3 is death. 4 is going to be credit, low credit scores. They're getting charged a whole lot of interest. And then lastly is that consumer spending, right? That habit, that junkie of always spending on every holiday, everything that's going on. And so tell me a little bit about inflation, like why some people should be worrying about inflation, and how can they outpace inflation?
So the unfortunate piece about this is a lot of people don't even understand what inflation is. That's terrible. But inflation is basically the rise in cost of goods and services, right? So for instance, if today this bottle of water cost $1, and I had $1 bill, and I say, you know what, I don't want to buy this, I'm gonna wait till next year, and inflation is 3%, for instance. So next year, the same bottle of water is now $1.03. but I only have this dollar bill. So now I can't even afford this bottle of water anymore. That's inflation. So it decreases your purchasing power. So as far as a strategy to get around that, the only strategy to get around that is to invest in appreciating assets, cash flow and appreciating assets if you can. So that's why I'm a big proponent in real estate. I like real estate goes up in time over time, period. And I like to get cash flow every month from it. So it's paying me while it's going up in value. So that would be a way to get around the inflation. But in general, you just got to invest in cash flow and assets, appreciating assets.
I love it. I love it. And that's absolutely the truth, because inflation is a good thing when you're on the right end of inflation. So
Yep.
appreciation in that real estate asset that you have, that appreciation, that equity in there, that is inflation, right? And so when you have yourself in a position where you have that asset, like you mentioned at an early age of 20 years old, 19 years old, 21 years old, and you house hacking, right? Most people don't know that you can get a FHA loan, right, as a first-time home buyer for a fourplex and only put 3.5% down on that fourplex, right? If you could find a good fourplex, right?
Yeah.
The seller can give you up to 6% towards closing costs, right? To pay for your insurance, help with the property taxes. And the seller can even, the seller give you up to 6%, but also there's other down payment assistance that potentially be out there as well to help cut that cost. So imagine for a moment, you're getting that tax return back, right? What it really is just a refund of your own money that you overpaid throughout the year, right? So you get that refund back, you take that and you go buy that fourplex. You living on one side of that, one of the units, could be renting the rooms out like Mr. Cousin said. Each one of those rooms, you cash flowing from the rooms. The other 3 units, you cash from those 3 units. Then all of a sudden, you have 10 years go by. And that house or that fourplex went from $235,000 now is over $600,000. But imagine if you was able to pick up 3, 4, 5 or more of those appreciating assets along that time period. That will really put you in the position where you're free. You could walk away from that job. You could have those multiple streams of income.
Yep.
So we talked a little bit about inflation. Let's get into credit a little bit. Like,
Hold on, can I add one more thing real quick? I'm sorry.
Oh, no doubt, big bro.
Yeah, so you mentioned the appreciation part of it, but look, the way I look at it, housing and taxes, that's our biggest expenses, housing and taxes. So if we could eliminate or significantly reduce our housing expense, then we're already winning. So in the case, like the example you just gave, you're either going to eliminate that housing expense altogether, or you're going to significantly reduce it by having the other 3 units paying your rent. So you're winning off top without even worrying about the appreciation piece. You're winning just by reducing the housing expense. So that's all I wanted to say.
Nah, that's not just all. That's a major jewel, because at the end of the day, as that inflation hit in a positive way in that piece of property, then at some point you could do a cash out refinance. Yep. You could do a cash out refinance, and all the money that you originally put in at the very beginning, whether it was $10,000, $8,000, whatever that cost was, you could do a cash out refinance, take all that money back out. Now you could use that money to go buy another asset. Yep. So now instead of going to get a fourplex, you might be able to go get a duplex, right? Because now you're moving out of that 4 unit, you're moving into a duplex. The underwriter is not going to scrutinize it as much because they're looking at you going in a positive direction. But you can't go from a single family home with an FHA loan and think about going to get a fourplex with an FHA loan, because now you're trying to be an investor, right? They ain't going to work. But if you start out with that fourplex, work your way down to that threeplex, work your way down to that double, then get that single. Now, each one of those steps that you have no money in that deal no more. You put your money in, inflation go out, you do a cash out refinance, pull that original cash out, go get another property and keep that bad boy going. And so, like you mentioned, that's going to outpace that of inflation. So let's talk about credit a little bit. Like, why do you believe credit is important? And then 2, what's some strategy that we can use to build that credit?
So credit is important because it allows you opportunities. Like, it's crazy because when you have a high credit score, like the bank's throwing money at you. They're dying for you. They want you to come borrow from them, right? But that's when you don't need it. When you don't need the credit, that's when they out there trying to give you all the money. You know what I mean? That's how I feel right now. Like I take credit seriously, man. Like I strive to stay, even though it doesn't really matter once you above 740. But like I strive to stay above 825, bro. No lie to you. That's my goal. I don't know. It's just a ego thing, probably. But like when you have credit, man, you afforded opportunities. You can leverage that to get financing for whatever you want, pretty much, as long as it makes sense and it's legal. But when you have poor credit, it's expensive. So like they're gonna hit you with the higher interest rate, of course. They're gonna hit you with higher fees. Like it's just like that's the most important piece, especially when you're a young person, like trying to start off on the right foot. You know what I mean? You want to keep more of that money in your pocket and not going out to the bank in the form of interest. So if you could work on getting that credit, and it's 5 different areas. The most important, obviously, being payment history. So you want to make sure you're getting all those payments made on time. But yeah, it's very important. I would take that seriously. Don't let nobody co-sign for you. That's the worst thing you could do. I'm sorry, don't co-sign for somebody. That's what I meant. Don't co-sign for somebody. Like I wouldn't co-sign with nobody.
No, not at all.
Not even family. I love my family, but I can't co-sign.
Right, we're not gonna do that.
No, I take it. It's significantly important, bro. Like I guard that credit with my life.
That's right. Because the beautiful thing about what proper credit, you can do the house hack. Yeah. You can buy those appreciating assets. The whole purpose of the credit is not to get in bad debt. It's a difference between bad debt and good debt, right? Bad debt is when you go buy that 2024 Charger outside, Dodge Charger. Now you spending $40,000 for that thing, and it's taking money out of your pocket every month. That's a bad debt. A good debt puts money in your pocket, like leveraging that duplex, that triplex, that fourplex. That's putting money in your pocket. But most people don't have $200,000 or $180,000 just sitting in the bank at 19, 20, 21 years old to be able to go buy that property. So they have to leverage OPM, other people money, by using their credit. And so imagine that for a moment. You get to leverage somebody else's money, go buy appreciating asset that's hopefully cash flowing for you every month, that's going to pay back the debt that you have, right? But yet you're winning because the properties are appreciating, the cash flow might be increasing up and up. So credit is extremely important. And like Mr. Cousin said, don't co-sign for nobody. I know a kid who was 22, 23 years old, right? Fresh out of high school. Unfortunately, had a little car accident, got about $20,000 in his pocket. And next thing you know, he co-signed for a girl that wasn't even his girlfriend, right? And when them payments was missed, guess who credit score it was hitting? His credit score too, right? And so just be very, very careful. So we talked about inflation. We talked about credit. Let's change gears a little bit and talk about taxes. You mentioned that, like how to legally, not tax evasion. We ain't talking about that, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about legally strategies to be able to lower your taxes. What's some tips that you can share with the audience?
So a couple of things here, man. Like I'm no CPA, so that's my disclaimer. But I love studying how to legally avoid your taxes, man. Like I believe in paying my taxes. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want to overpay and leave a tip. So like I studied this stuff. I remember my CPA. She used to hate me at the beginning of our relationship because I used to question her a lot. Like, hey, what about this and what about this? And nobody's ever done that to her before. You know what I mean? So it caught her off guard. But like I pay for a course on taxes because I want to know. I don't want to leave money out there. So some legal ways is the easiest is owning a business. And that could be, it doesn't have to be a real estate brokerage. It could just be a business. Like you out there selling something, some kind of product. That's a business. And why I say that's the legal way and the easiest probably is because you can take what your common, like let's say for instance, you already have a cell phone. Well, maybe it could become your business phone now. And you can write it off in the business. Now it becomes a tax deduction. Your car. Now you can have, a certain percentage of your car is used for personal and a certain percentage is used for business. You can write those business off as a deduction. So those business miles. I mean, you were paying for it anyway. Why not get a tax deduction for it? So that's some ways I, legally avoid having to pay taxes. But I'm all for paying. I'm an American. I want to pay my fair share, but I do figure out ways that to legally reduce it. And you should too.
That's right. I mean, that's the wise thing to do. At the end of the day, we have to have as minimum taxes that we pay as possible because that money that you're saving through the strategies that you learn, you could take that and pay down your debt. Like right now in 2024, we have one of the most highest consumer debts there ever been. The highest consumer debt coming out of COVID 2020. And so imagine for a moment if you're able to steady spending $20,000 a year on taxes and you're able to get that reduced to $10,000. Well, what you can do with the extra $10,000, right? You could put that on something else, right? Appreciating the asset, maybe pay down some debt. So yeah, absolutely.
You can invest it. Take that money and invest it.
That's
you
right.
know, you mentioned. You ever heard of usdebtclock.org?
No, sir.
So if you, brother, it's a cool website. It gives you so many statistics, but like you can click on it and it's about a second it updates. Right now we're in a U.S. national debt of $36.2 trillion. So the way I look at that, and then it breaks it down and said debt per citizen of 107,000, debt per taxpayer 271,000. So the way I look at that is it's only going to continue to grow. We bring as a country, we bring in less money than we spend. So we keep going in deficits, right? Deficit after deficit. So that money is only going to continue to grow. How do you think they're going to get that settled at? They're going to have to raise taxes at some point. So that's why I'm a big proponent in having diverse income streams, money coming in from all over, and legally figuring out ways that I could pay the less amount of taxes as possible and invest the rest. So like I don't never have a lot of money. Like I'm broke. People ask me about money. I'm broke. My money is investing out there working. It's bringing back babies. That's how I look at it. My money out there working for me. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. You have enough cash just to pay your bills, and that's it. Everything else is being invested.
Yep, you have to. That's the only way to survive. Like I'm telling you, look at that website, bro. You're gonna be a surprise. $36.2 trillion in debt.
That's right. And it's like you say, it's never ending, constantly going up. It's huge.
Oh yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about that debt, right? Because we talk about those 5 challenges that people have to be aware of and overcome to meet those 2 financial obligations. And those of you are just tuning in, one of those financial obligations is your current lifestyle, right? Having enough money that you can pay all your bills and have some cash left over. Oftentimes in today's world, based on that $37 trillion in consumer debt, that most people have more bills left over at the end of the month than they do cash, bills that they haven't even paid yet. But the second financial obligation is going to be the future lifestyle, right? 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, how can you maintain living with raiment, food, housing, etc.? How can you pay for that? Oftentimes people look at it and say, hey, well, my Social Security give me my livable wage in the future. And that answer is no. When you look at the people today that's strictly on Social Security, they have to decide whether they're going to buy medicine or pay the utility bill, right? Pension plans from corporations. Pension plans, a lot of them is going out of the door. Some of them made some bad investment and lost a lot of money in 2008, 2009. So you can't really rely on the government for Social Security. You can't rely on a corporation for pension. You have to take personal responsibility and plan for your financial obligation. But to meet those 2 financial obligations, there's 5 challenges that you have to be aware of and know. Number 1, that's going to be inflation. We talked about that. Number 2 is going to be taxes. We talked about that. We just finished talking a little bit about debt. So we already talked about credit. So let's talk about that debt piece. Like, what would you recommend people do if they have some consumer debt? Like, what's some of the strategy they can do to get that debt down?
Well, before we go there, I just want to say Social Security is a legal Ponzi scheme, in my opinion. But I contribute to that every single month, right? But I don't expect to get that. Like, that's why I say it's a legal Ponzi scheme. I'm giving to it. I do not expect to get any of that. So that's why I'm all about, self-sufficiency, right? I'm getting myself together so I don't even have to worry about that, But all right, my bad. Back to debt. You talked about that. So honestly, man, the biggest and best way to do this would be first, acknowledge it, sit down, put it on paper. I'm big on putting it on paper. Once you see it, it becomes reality, right? Instead of just thinking about it. So like I have a spreadsheet. I say paper, but a spreadsheet will suffice as well. But like I update my spreadsheet every 6 months just to track how we're looking, like as far as loans, balance sheet. Like I track all that every 6 months. But putting your debt out on paper, seeing, what do you owe, how much you owe, what's the interest rate on that, and figuring out, like, do you want to do the avalanche method or you want to do the snowball method? Snowball, I think these were coined by Dave Ramsey, which he's a good guy for who he's not for me, but
Correct.
for a lot of Americans, he is good for them. He services them, but I don't believe in a lot of things he say, like don't have a credit card and pay your house off in cash. I don't believe in that, but that's another story. So avalanche and snowball. So snowball would be where you're paying the smallest debt off first, because it creates momentum. So you'll pay off that smallest debt and take that money, whatever that was going towards it, and put it on to the next one. And as you grow, you're just paying down these debts, and it's getting bigger and bigger because you're having more and more money freed up to pay off the debt. So that's the snowball method. It builds momentum because you have a little confidence. You're paying off some debts. So if that's you, that's the route you would go. If it was me, I would choose the avalanche method. That's where you take the biggest debt, the one with the most expensive, so the one with the highest interest rate, and pay that off first. And that may take you a longer time, but you will be saving more in interest by going that route rather than the other one. So it really just depends on the person. But either way, I would say put it on paper, a spreadsheet, and acknowledge it first. See what you have available. Well, not available. See what you have against you, and then start attacking it, coming up with a plan. But you have to develop some type of plan instead of just looking at it and letting it build. Because if you let it sit there, it's just going to continue to grow.
That's right. And a lot of people, Mr. Cousin, they'd be afraid to even look at this situation because they know it's bad. And so that emotion is there, that heartbeat is pumping. You can hear it across the room, that heartbeat pumping. But we have to be able to get over that fear and deal with it head on. It took you a while to get there, right? It didn't happen overnight. It took you a while to get there. So you can't expect the microwave theory to get out of debt quickly. It's going to take you a little while to get out, but you got to have a plan. And it starts with financial literacy. That's why we're here. We're sharing. We're giving some golden nuggets, but then you have to have that plan. A lot of people, Mr. Cousin, not aware that taxes actually contribute to debt. Taxes actually contribute to debt. What do I mean by that, ladies and gentlemen? Well, when you go to that mortgage lender, when you go to that banker for that auto loan, my wife, she's a mortgage lender. People call us. I'm doing a consultation. And one of the things I ask them is, hey, how much do you earn gross? Mm-hmm. Gross. That means your income that you earn before any taxes, before any insurance payments come out, how much do you owe? Meaning that offer letter you got from your JOB, whatever that offer letter is, that's what we want to know. So let's say that you say, hey, I earn $50,000 gross. Awesome. Well, we're taking that $50,000 and we're using that for that DTI or that debt to income ratio to get you approved for a house, to get you approved for your automobile, et cetera, et cetera. But think about this. The average person without that home-based business, without that business that Mr. Cousin mentioned, you're most likely close to a 30% tax bracket. That means that before you get your paycheck, 30% is coming out in taxes, right? So technically, $50,000 you earning gross, but you're only bringing home $35,000 after taxes. So you really, that $35,000 is your net income from taxes. So now you have a lifestyle that you created off this $50,000 lifestyle, the beautiful home, the beautiful car, and all the other toys that go along with it, but you only bringing home $35,000. Well, what happens? Well, most people bridge that gap with credit cards. Mm-hmm. They go and they buy some gas today, buy some new tires a couple of weeks from now, stopping, buying food. And the next thing you know, 2 years go by, 3 years go by, and they have $25,000, $30,000 worth of debt. It just snuck up on them. And so you want to avoid that by, number one, having financial literacy. Number two, having that game plan to get out of debt that Mr. Cousin just gave us, and also a game plan to put up a savings, an emergency fund, right? That emergency fund is literally insurance for you to keep you from using the credit card. You can tap into that emergency fund cash if you need. So anything else you want to add for that before we make a little adjustment?
Yeah, so I would say when it comes to, so this is a mindset shift I had years ago. I heard it from someone else. But basically, before going buy a liability, like you mentioned a truck earlier or a car or whatever, like the way I look at it now, and I've been doing this for some years successfully, instead of going buy that, I'll buy a property and let that property pay for that. And the reason being is because now I have a cash flowing asset that I'm making money on. For instance, let's say I'm bringing in $1,000 a month on this property net, like cash flow. That $1,000 a month is now paying off my car. After the car is paid off, then I still have the cash flowing asset of $1,000, you know? So that's the way I look at things now. So whenever I want to buy, like, because I don't really buy things. And if I do, you know, I'll buy a property first to pay that off. So that's a mindset shift that's required, but it works.
Absolutely. I hope you guys picked that up. I hope you got that, right? Buy a cash flowing, appreciating asset first to pay for that liability that you have. And so the idea is you have your income and you have your expense column. And then you have your asset and you have your liability column. Well, that asset column should be putting money into that income column, right? Consistently, always. That's the key. So now let's talk a little bit about consumer spending, right? We know every single month almost the world tell us that we have to go and spend some money, right? So marketing. Tell us a little bit about consumer spending. What can some
that's
people
all marketing, bro. All marketing. Somebody mentioned this, that it's basically a holiday every month. You know what I mean? Like it's out there purposely doing that, like for you to spend your money. So that's gonna just require some independence on the individual, man. You gotta I don't know, self-reflection.
Discipline.
Like, discipline. Discipline is everything. So that's why I say you got to put that debt down. Like, you got to see it. Because if you don't see it, you don't know what you're doing. Like, you out there just spending. And it's so easy, especially like I was telling my wife this the other day, like Amazon has made it so easy now to buy, bro. Man, I was like, I'm gonna have to change that password for real. Like, it's the click of a button now. Like, you know, it's just one button. Like, it's so easy to spend. So I feel like if you're not paying attention to your debts, then you could easily go overboard. You know what I mean? Because the credit is there. They'll give you credit cards. They want you to. They eat off of those late fees and those default charges. Like, that's how they make their money. So they don't like me. They don't make money off me. I use them for the bonuses and the points and the miles and stuff like that. That's what I use them for. I pay off every month. But you just got to be disciplined about it, like you said. So no strategies about it. You just got to be disciplined, know what you're doing, and know, like, look at your financial situation. Like, I'll recommend you do it at least starting out at least quarterly. Once you get comfortable, at least every 6 months. And you mentioned the emergency fund earlier. Like, I recommend you have 6 months, 3 to 6 months of whatever your monthly bills are. That's what I do. At least that's what I have set aside, 6 months of my monthly bills in a separate account, just in case.
That's right. I love it. And funny story about Amazon and how easy it is, right? So we have a 6-year-old son, right? He was 5 years old at the time. And all of a sudden, we come home one day and there's 2 big wheels in front of our front porch, right? Like, man, where did big wheels come from? We're looking at the box. You can see my wife's name on there, right? On both of them. We're like, man, what is this? Dude, come to find out, my 5-year-old on my wife's phone went to Amazon, bought one, and then he thought about his brother. Like, you know what, my brother need one. He bought 2, clicked a couple of buttons, and boom, they delivered.
That's crazy, bro. That's how easy it is. Like, they make it so easy. I get it from a business standpoint. Like, that's why they thriving. That's why I own a lot of their shares.
That's right, exactly. That part. Yep. Well, listen, it's been an absolutely blast. It's been a pleasure, big bro. Man, I thank you so much for coming in, dropping those jewels. Tell the audience, like, how can they get in touch with Mr. Cousin?
What's crazy is we didn't even talk real estate. I thought we was coming here to talk some real estate.
I know, right? We got caught up with the finances.
It's all good. So you could catch me on Instagram. That's my favorite, platform of choice. It's Cousin Sales LA. Cousin Sales LA. You can catch any of my books. I have ebooks and paperbacks, and I have a few other ebooks that we haven't talked about, as well as a course. All that's on gotincomestreams.com. That's gotincomestreams.com. Or you could just give me a call, 504-220-7297. That's 504-220-7297. Or last thing, email Antonio@servicefirstre.com. That's service, the number 1STRE.com. And can I just leave it with a quote since we on this personal finance piece?
No, man. Look, we free. Like, we could do whatever we want. In fact, we're gonna take another 10 minutes if you okay, and we could talk about real estate. Like, I'm not in the rush.
Okay. Well, yeah, I just wanted this quote, man, is a Bill Gates quote. Always stick with me. It says, if you were born poor, that's not your fault. but if you die poor, that's your fault.
That's right. I love that. Say it
Take
one more
control.
time, my friend.
If you were born poor, that's your fault. But if you die poor, hold on, did I say no? If you were born poor, that's not your fault. But if you die poor, that's your fault.
That's right. I love it. I love it. So
Yeah.
look, like I said, I got time. This is our platform. We do what we want. So talk to me about that real estate. Like, give whatever you want to talk about. You give the golden nuggets. I'm listening.
So I thought we were gonna go on real estate, the investing piece. I mean, we talked about it a little bit. I'm a big proponent of real estate only because I know, like, it's not going anywhere. Like, you have the building. The way I look at it, real estate pays you 5 ways. So the first being cash flow. Everybody knows what that is, right? That's what you bring in minus what you spend every month. That's your cash flow. The second is going to be appreciation. We talked about that too. All properties go up in value, even in the hood. It just takes a while. So over time, all properties go up in value, as well as equity capture. So while it's going up, your tenant is paying the rent, which is increasing your equity in the property. All right. So that's two. So that's two things. Cash flow appreciation. The second is leverage. So if you wanted to buy a stock, let's say you wanted to buy $100,000 worth of stock. Well, you need $100,000 in cash. With real estate, you don't need that much. In fact, the bank is going to put up most of the money. You could come to the table with 0% all the way to 5% if it's a primary residence, 15 to 25% if it's an investment property. So that's leverage. Depreciation, which we didn't talk about, but that's the tax benefits. So many tax benefits with real estate. That's why 90% of millionaires own real estate, because they know how to leverage it by way of the tax benefits. For instance, like a residential property, the tax law allows you to depreciate the property by 27 and a half years, commercial 39 years. So what that means is, let's say I got a property that's worth $275,000. That means I could depreciate the property by $10,000 each year. So if I'm receiving in cash flow $10,000 for the year, I can write off all $10,000 of that cash flow. And on the paper for my tax return, it's looking like I made $0 on the property, when in all actuality, I put $10,000 in my pocket. So that's the depreciation part of it. And then the last thing is inflation profiting. This one a lot of people don't think about or don't know. So the way I look at it is, like we already talked about inflation and how it goes up in value. I say value. It goes up over time, right? But the way you profit from inflation is locking in long-term debt. So we can agree that if I got a loan right now on a particular property, and let's say my principal and interest is $1,000 a month, that's my payment to the bank today. I got a 30-year loan. All right. In 15 to 20 years, my payment's still going to be $1,000. But we already talked about inflation and how it diminishes the value of the dollar every day. So in all actuality, in 15 to 20 years, I'm paying that $1,000 back with cheaper dollars. So that's how you profit from inflation, by locking in long-term, low interest rate debt. So that's my 5 things. That's what I like to teach, those 5 things.
Man, I love it. I mean, that's extremely important. And tell the audience, why it's so important, not just to have your own home, but actually have investment properties. A lot of people buy their home first, then they go into investment. You mentioned earlier, hey, house hacking, getting the asset first that's going to cash flow, then get the home. At what point should somebody actually look at, even think about buying a home in your strategy?
So to be honest, immediately, like, I'm not a big proponent in renting unless you move often, like for job related purposes, things like that. And the big reason is because now you're at the mercy of your landlord. Like, if they want to raise the rent, they're going to raise the rent. Now, whether you accept it or not, you have to move. That's still an inconvenience. I don't like to be told what to do. So that's why I prefer to own my own home, because, I don't have anybody telling me they're going to raise the rent, or I have to move because they're not going to renew my lease. So I like options. And if I had lived in a spot where I was leasing, I feel like I would be giving up some of that control, and I don't want to do that. But as far as like when they should buy a property, like, I honestly believe, and obviously I sell real estate, so it might come off as biased, but I believe everybody should own property if they could afford it. Now, What I will say is, you shouldn't go out just because you pre-approved for $500,000. I mean, you should buy a $500,000 house, because that's when people become house poor. Like you mentioned earlier, when y'all are looking at it and underwriting these people, you're looking at it from the growth standpoint. They're not factoring in the taxes, the housing expense, the cable, the utilities. They're not factoring in all that. So some people, they buy a house and then they get in over their heads, where their mortgages, all their paycheck is going towards the mortgage, and that's no fun. You don't want to, that's called house poor. You don't want to be that person. So what I recommend is you get pre-approved for whatever amount that you're gonna get pre-approved at, but don't spend that. Like go considerably less than that, so that way you're comfortable. But I like to own my own stuff and paint the walls. I don't have to ask for permission to paint walls and hang things and add additions. So that's just me. Like I love not having to ask for permission.
Awesome. And another thing dealing with real estate, right? In regards to we're gonna get that single family to that fourplex. When you get into a multifamily property, sometimes there's different strategies, financial tools that you could use to get into a multifamily, even bringing in partnerships. How do you feel about partnering up with somebody to get a multifamily? Let's say it was a 16-plex, 20-plex.
So when it comes to real estate investing, the way I look at it and what I've learned is that it's three things, right? It takes capital, which is the money. It takes time, and it takes skill. So those three things are required with every real estate deal. And you may not have all of them. Like specifically, if you're new, you're probably not going to have the skill because you're new. So you want to learn. So that's when partnering comes into play. You want to partner with somebody that does have the skill. Or if you don't have the time, you want to partner with somebody that does have the time, and vice versa. But partnerships are huge. Like I partner with me and my boys. We own property. We own, I want to say 5 or 6 doors together. And then I have 13 doors total between me and my wife and then me and my boys. And then I'm a limited partner in a 240 unit syndication apartment deal in Georgia. So I'm big in partnerships. It allows you to scale. You don't have to do it all by yourself. You can attack bigger deals. Like you just mentioned, a 16 unit. A lot of times you may not have the money or the credit or the experience to be able to take that deal down. So it's okay to partner. If you're bringing somebody that can add value to the deal, splitting some money is better than splitting zero. So that's I'm all about partnering, man.
Yeah, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. Wealth building is a team sport.
Yeah.
So big bro, anything else you want to share in the real estate?
Nah, not in particular. Awesome. Nothing come to mind.
Awesome. Well, listen, one more time, give the information out for the listeners, and then we're gonna be rolling on out of here, my friend.
What the easiest is just hit me up on Instagram, cousinsellsla.com. I mean, at cousinsellsla. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. I check that pretty regularly.
Awesome. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, you all have a great day on purpose. I'm excited. This show was amazing. Thank you all, and you enjoy the rest of your day on purpose too, Mr. Cousin. We'll talk soon, sir.
All right, bro. Thank you.
That brings today's show to a close. Thank you for listening to the Private Lending Insider Podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, feel free to share it with a friend and subscribe. Please follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Randy the Private Money Lender. For continuing education and access to reliable private capital, visit chamblissmortgagecapital.com. Until next time, choose to have a great day on purpose.